All right. Thank you. And welcome everyone for our new guest on my channel. And I'm excited to welcome Shruthi Desai. She is a kids yoga educator and she lives across the coast in Seattle. And she is the founder and owner of Mudita Circles and the Conscious Children's Project. And I'm so excited to have her on my channel. Welcome, Shruthi. How are you
Thank
doing?
you. Thank you. I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm really looking forward to having this conversation with you, exchange ideas, and share more about, well being for children. Yeah, that's the space that we are in. So anything that we can share, maybe it could inspire one or two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. So just to start off the conversation, right? You left the corporate world to come and work with children. So can you tell us a little bit about that decision you made?
Yes, that's a really great question. I was in the corporate world for about 12 years, and after becoming a mom, and especially after my second one, uh, I kind of started questioning myself about how to, nurture children. What is it truly essential? And all these thoughts as a new mom. And so for me it I was questioning myself for about 2 years, and in the meantime we transitioned to India and came back. So I saw my older one kind of adjust to the Indian school system and then come back here and start schooling here. So he was a little anxious. Any kid would be, right? Going into a new place and then coming back and then relearning and unlearning. And so I was
Mhm.
like, how can I support him? Is there a way that I can support him? By then, I was, I was always into yoga. I was practicing it myself. And so I was curious to understand if, yoga can be taught to kids, and if they can be taught, how can we make it engaging? Because I,
Yeah.
as a kid, didn't really, it was taught in our school, but it was so much like a physical education, and it was more very, I mean, I don't
Strict.
know. Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
I didn't kind of have a liking towards it. I used to do it because I was told to do, or rather forced to do. And so
Mhm.
that's what the same mindset that I had. Like, why would kids do it if, if we force them, or how can we make it engaging or interesting for them? So that was the curiosity that I had, and the need to support my kids. So both of those led into me getting learning about it, getting certified, and then finally teaching the kids. Everything was natural progression. It was not
Mhm.
really planned. I've
No.
never really I Teaching was not something I even dreamt of. It was
Mhm.
far it was far from the reality that I was imagining for myself. Yeah, so I think it just happened.
That's wonderful. And it's good that it happened so that,
Yes.
now yeah, we can help other children. Usually that's how it happens, right? We find something that we need for ourselves and then
Mhm.
find more people who need the same thing, and then we can
Right.
help others. That's
Right.
great. So tell us a little bit about both of your work at Mudita Circles and the Conscious Children's Project, because I have been following your work and I'm always admiring it. And I think you're doing amazing in both of these platforms. So share a little bit about that.
Thank you. Thank you for, following along and, seeing the value in it. And I feel like that means a lot to me than anything. Both the projects are around children, and both of them feed into each other. One is Mudita Circle, is where, all the yoga aspect and well-being aspect are managed, or rather that's the initiative under where all the yoga aspect happens. The Conscious Children Project is more of a conversation,
Mm.
is a more broader aspect where we have experts coming in and sharing an idealistic scenario, how to nurture children, how nutrition works, or what should be the schedule. So helping us figure out the ideal scenario, and then we have parents who come in and share their real day-to-day challenges, in a real world, what is actually happening. And then
Mm-hmm.
we have children who express how they want to be cared for in a given scenario. What is it that they are feeling? Because most of the times, what happens, we are grown adults now. We were kids once, but we often forget what it is like to be a kid. And then
Mm-hmm.
we've passed, we've grown, and then, multiple generations after we have kids, and our mindset and their mindsets, we have a huge generational gap, right? So if we don't listen to them or pay attention to their thought process, we might come from a different mindset of, this is how I was parented and this is how I am going to parent my children.
Yeah.
Instead, we are turning the mic, or turning the spotlight, or putting the spotlight on the kids and trying to understand and then support them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Also, coming from a different country and living here and trying to understand the new culture. And then there is this whole generation gap, and then times are changing very fast. We cannot keep up with the latest trends or latest things that is happening in our kids' lives.
Right.
So sometimes we feel completely left out. So it is really important to hear children's perspective. And
Right.
I love how the whole community comes together, parents, the experts, what research says, what is the ideal scenario, everything coming together and bringing different perspectives is really important.
Right.
Yeah, I'm loving the conversations so far. So I really enjoy hearing the kids' voices. And then, of course, the experts are putting their, wisdom into it as well. So that's wonderful.
Thank you.
So, yeah, one of the things I am specifically loving is how you're engaging your community. Like you're giving tons of free resources, challenges that you're doing, and getting them involved, some way. And most of it are around building social awareness, or maybe there's a gratitude challenge. Uh, so I'm just wondering, why do you think these skills are important? And if you see these are all under the umbrella of socio-emotional learning skills, why do you think we should care about this? Or at least, why should we teach our children this?
I I personally think that should be the foundation of everything a kid learns, or that's how the learning has to begin. Um,
Mhm.
Back while we were growing up, I don't think there was something called as SEL, or at least we were not aware. The
Mhm.
terminology was not there.
Yeah,
We didn't have the vocabulary. At least I didn't have the vocabulary to
yeah.
express myself. Like, I might be feeling several things, but I didn't know how to express or communicate my feelings. And for me, everything boils down to self-awareness. If you
Mm.
know what you're feeling, if you are able to communicate, I think
Mhm.
you've solved the most of the mystery, or most of the hard aspect. Everything else can be figured out.
Mhm.
The most challenging aspect is knowing yourself, which is the hardest. If you learn that from the very early stages,
Mhm.
everything else can be figured out, because you know what you're feeling, how much your capacity is, when to rest, when to accelerate. If you know
Yeah.
that, everything else can be figured out.
Yeah, so like you were mentioning, even while we were growing up, we had something called moral science or
Yes.
something like that, right?
Yes.
But it was not much about social skills, or more about emotional literacy. It was not about that. Nobody asked us, "How are you feeling today?" or check in with your feelings. The whole feelings part was, just keep your feelings to yourself.
Yes.
Don't share it with anyone. So it was like that.
Ye-
But yeah, I too was, surprised to learn about this whole field of socio-emotional learning and all the research that has been done about it, and why and how it is so important in today's day and age
Mhm.
for us humans to, learn and have this emotional literacy and skills. So that's wonderful. So what have you learned through your conversations with children? Because like I said, to today's generation, they're growing fast, and they are exposed to too many things. And what I have noticed is, um, unlike how we grew up, at least in my generation, we were never speaking up, right? We were never telling what we want. We were always quiet or shy. But today's children, I feel like they are very self-aware. Oh, what is your experience?
So I think that's a very difficult question to answer.
Mhm.
I will maybe break it down into two.
Yeah.
One is yes, they have the courage to voice their opinion, share
Mm-hmm.
their thoughts. We were asked to hold it back, and we were not given the space to share our opinions.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I kind of put that in a different bucket, and
Okay.
then the self-awareness into another bucket. Um,
Yes.
I think the current generation have the courage, know how to speak, have the vocabulary to speak,
Mm-hmm.
and are not scared of anything. Nothing is holding them back. So
Right.
yes, they are out and about with everything that they want to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of self-aware, I think that's a difficult question.
Mm-hmm.
It would be a very general statement to say the most kids are whether self-aware or not aware. But I
Mm-hmm.
think for the most, it is something that needs to be taught.
Yeah.
Um, like, having the vocabulary to share their experiences, share their feelings, and when they are vocalizing things, they might be reacting for the most part if they
Correct.
don't know how to reflect. So I
Absolutely.
think self-awareness to me is um, understanding your feelings and
Mm-hmm.
knowing how to respond versus react.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the current generations are very good about reacting and
Yeah.
expressing in a
Yeah.
way that then something is wrong is aware, but do they know what is actually happening in their mind or happening in their body? They probably don't have that kind of awareness. And I think that
True.
is where all of the SEL and
Mm-hmm.
mindfulness, yoga, breathing, all of those comes in. And if they are
Yes.
taught much earlier in life, they
Mm-hmm.
build those life skills, life tools that they can use to navigate their life from then onwards, right? These are not the
Mm-hmm.
skills that go waste at all. They are skills that you need in your school, you need
Yeah.
in your sports, you need it everywhere. You need to have that social skills, you need to have that awareness within yourself to know how to respond versus
Mm-hmm.
react.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say these skills are not going waste. And to coming back to your point, I mean, it is a very difficult question to answer. I would say yes, they can vocalize, but probably they're not self-aware in a way that they can respond and not react.
Hmm. That's wonderfully put, actually. That's good. Because we see a lot of kids feeling strong emotions. Either they lash out, or or they go into a shell,
Right.
right? I mean, they might feel better to communicate maybe after a few hours, or maybe the next day, or maybe in a few weeks, but right at that moment, I think their reactions are very stronger, or it's like totally numbed down or
Right.
going into a shell. So these are huge and very important tools to, like there is a saying, right? Like name it to tame it. If you just name what you're going through, or just use the words to
Right.
express what you're feeling, you've already solved half of the problem. So
Exactly. Yes.
it's huge. It's huge. It's a very important skill. So how have this is my personal journey also, right? To teach these skills, and at the same time, I'm learning myself.
Yes.
Um, uh, how has your own emotional literacy, or the skills around self-awareness affected or changed while you're preparing to teach children these skills? I
Yeah.
think it's very important for us to be aware of what we are going through, so that we can, translate it into our teachings.
Right. No, I think this is the, I started off with curiosity and a need to help my kids. It
Mm-hmm.
was a personal need for my own kids. And then
Yeah.
everything that turned out out of it has happened naturally. But I think the person who has transformed the most, who has, I think, gained uh, the most impact is myself, I would say, because
Yeah.
everything is lived experience, right?
Mhm.
You can, I think, when I used to read, people say that, experience it, live it, feel it, and then share it. Versus, when you just read something and express without having to have experienced it, there
Mhm.
is some wisdom there as well. But when you have
Okay.
lived it yourself and experienced it, you know how to connect, you know how to share that even more than
Mhm.
you are just sharing or forwarding like a forward message, right? A
Yeah.
forward message on WhatsApp or social media. That happens passively, but this is more of an active approach when you have
Right.
lived and experienced it yourself. So I think
Yeah.
as I was learning, as I was experiencing it myself, and I think the best way I learn is by putting myself out there,
Yeah.
in like on the job, right? Because I think there's no better way to learn than learning on the job. Because yes, you can
Mhm.
read up on everything, right? But only when you physically do a certain action will you
Yeah.
know how people are responding to it, how things are around it. You will know how to navigate situation, how to manage different temperaments of kids, and then different age groups, their milestones, their development. You
Yeah.
can read all of it, but
Yes.
if you're not able to execute, or if you're not able to put that together in a class, then all those learning is of no good. So I think it's good to learn, it's good to be aware so you know what to expect, but I think the
Mhm.
best learning happens in the classroom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely, because we are dealing with different age groups and
Yeah.
uh, at different developmental stages of their life, and they all express different variety of emotions.
Right.
And we have to be in a space where we can at least take it all in, and then give them back the best possible reaction or response.
Exactly.
So
You don't
that's
have to
wonderful.
always go regulated to the class. Yeah.
Right. So it's like meditation, right? Everybody can talk hours and hours about meditation, but only if you meditate, then you will realize, okay, what exactly is happening. So it is like you have to live it first, like you were saying, and then to teach it. That's wonderful. Great. Okay, so like I said, your community, you are talking a lot about awareness, and all these challenges are wonderful. I think that's where I had this question about how do you effectively teach all these concepts, which are kind of abstract. If you just tell them, hey, you have to have empathy, okay, the word is there. There are, there is a lesson or whatever, but how, unless you're put in a certain scenario, kids may not understand, what empathy is, or what resilience is, or what self-awareness is. So what do you think is the best way to teach effectively these kind of abstract concepts to children?
Yeah, these are definitely abstract for any, I mean, like for kids especially. And
Yes.
I think we need to give that a perspective, a form, and a shape for
Mhm.
them to kind of visualize and make sense out of it. I
Right.
think the best is stories, through form of
Yes.
stories. I think humans are always drawn to storytelling. At
Mhm.
any point, at any age, even as we enjoy watching movies, we learn best when we see something or we read upon something. So I think stories are the best way to communicate or teach any certain values. And also like in situations where you see something happening in your life,
Mhm.
drawing their attention to that scenario. Like once in a classroom where I accidentally threw away a fortune, the fortune teller, the
Fortune
paper.
teller.
Yes,
Mhm.
I accidentally threw it away. It was one of the kids, and I threw it thinking that let me clean up. and that kid was so upset that she started to cry that I threw it. And I apologized, saying I didn't know that she wanted it. I thought I was going to clean up, and I just did the cleanup. And I apologized, and
Mm-hmm.
I told her that I will make a new one. And she was consoled, and she was fine at that moment. But there was this other kid who was just watching us have this conversation. She ran up to the trash can or the bin, and then she pulled up that paper, and she tried to fix it the best way she could, and she brought it back to her. And that
Mm-hmm.
to me was, empathy. She was able to connect with her emotion. And that was
Yeah.
a good lesson for me to pause and share that incident with the kids who were there. So now they
Mm-hmm.
can associate with that incident and say, okay, this is what empathy means: helping
Right.
someone or understanding the other person's feeling and feeling that in ourselves. And then
Yeah.
if we are feeling it, how do we want to be cared?
Mm-hmm.
So I think situations are helpful. Stories are my number one, I think. But
Good.
situations, you can't make up situations all the time. But
Yeah.
if you do have a situation, then banking on it or cashing on it is a good way to go about it.
Yeah. A lot of researchers, when they do research on these kind of teaching these skills to children, there is a segment of role playing, you
Correct.
know. So you kind of pretend like a form a skit or some, a
Yeah.
script, come up with a script and then you role play. But I think all of these takes a lot of time and, it's a little bit challenging, but I love the idea of using stories or real life scenarios, real life moments as a teaching moment, so
Hmm.
that, we can be very aware and we can be watchful of, okay, this is a perfect opportunity for me to teach a certain word or a certain concept to children. That's great.
Role play, I think role play is amazing. Yeah. But like you said, role play takes time and effort for you to put that together and
Yeah.
then share it in a way that's
Mhm.
appropriate. But
Mhm.
if someone can, do that, that
Yeah.
would be amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. So let's talk a little bit about parents or adults in general, right? Educators, teachers, caregivers, parents, moms, dads. So at least I think in today's day and age, we all are familiar, at least adults are familiar that emotional intelligence is one of the crucial skills. We know that as adults.
Mhm.
And yet, when it comes to teaching to children, uh, there is some hesitation. Okay, really, why do kids need this? And especially when you're saying in the language of yoga and mindfulness, there is a little bit of hesitation. At least that's what I have noticed. So I'm curious if you have noticed that, parents don't believe that this kids yoga is a real thing, you know. So what is your experience? What do you have to tell the parents if they think, or not just parents, if any adult think kids yoga is not real?
Yes, I think it is. I mean, I was also on the other end, right? I
Okay.
didn't know how to. I mean, like as a kid, I didn't find like liking towards it, or
Right.
I didn't see the value in it as a kid, right?
Correct, of course.
And then, but I know the value of it. So
Mm-hmm.
from the children point of view, they don't know the value and they don't know what it could do to them.
Yes.
And so here it is for adults to give that information to the children and bring that
Mm-hmm.
awareness in. The
Mm-hmm.
second point here is the thought or the mindset of parents is we learned it we learned it, we figured it out, kids will figure it out, right?
Yeah.
We are
Yeah.
here today, we are doing things
Fine. We are doing
fine, right?
fine.
So they will figure it out as well. So
Mm-hmm.
it's the figuring out mindset that most parents have, that if
Mm-hmm.
we were able to figure it out, I'm sure they will figure it out. But the question is, we didn't have the awareness that our kids have today. Like we didn't have social media, we didn't have television for the longest time, we didn't have phones, we didn't have
Mm-hmm.
a lot of other things. So we were well connected with the community. We were well connected with people. We had
Right.
social skills. We had like, I remember spending summer days just going up on the terrace and looking at the clouds and wondering what shapes those were. And if we were going on a car trip, we would just look outside and see, okay, my sister and I would count how many red cars are there, how many blue cars
Yeah.
are there. These
Yeah.
are all, it might sound so silly to kids today, but these were
Yes.
the things that we did, which helped me stay present, helped
Mm-hmm.
me
Mm-hmm.
with my creative skills, right?
Mm-hmm.
Creative thinking. Who would look at a cloud and think about what shape it could be? Those are
Totally.
creativity, right? And
Yeah.
today, every activity is on an iPad. Everything is on a digital package in a digital way, and
Mm-hmm.
that means they are consuming a lot of information more than they can process it. So,
Mm-hmm.
do you think it is essential that they know how to process their thoughts, take time to unwind? I think yes. And parents often probably are not looking at it from their perspective because we are in such fast-paced world. We want more certifications, we want more medals, we want our kids to be successful in
Yeah.
academics, we want our kids to be successful in sports, that we tend to forget to care for their mental health as well. We
Yeah.
teach them hygiene, but we forget to teach them how to care for themselves. We
Oh,
are in
yeah.
our body, we have the longest relationship with our body, like Sadhguru
Mm-hmm.
says, right? uh,
Mm-hmm.
that's the longest relation you have, so why not learn to take care of
Great.
yourself, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
physically or mentally? I think we know yoga is good as an adult, we know emotional intelligence is good, but then we don't, like you said, put the spotlight on to nurture it from the beginning. We think that adults will figure, as they grow in, they will figure it out and manage it. Yeah.
Right.
But
That is
also one more thought I wanted to add, I'm sorry if
great.
not to
It's
interrupt, but
okay.
then
Yes.
uh, the mental health challenges, the data
Mm-hmm.
shows that by 7, about a significant portion of the mental health challenges show up. By
Yeah.
14, 90% or more of the health challenges are already in the child. It does not, so mental health challenges does not pop up in your adulthood.
Okay. Okay.
It
Wow.
starts, the seed is sown in
Mm-hmm.
your childhood. So what does that mean? That emotional literacy, emotional intelligence, and the care and nurturing, everything, the support has to happen in the childhood, so that they don't end up being they don't have anxiety attacks, they don't have trauma. All of
Mm-hmm.
those are a result of not being cared for in the childhood.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, I'm so on the same page with you about how we used to have like a sense of community while growing up because we were free to go out for walks or go to the market, just walk downtown and, buy things and then, play with friends and then street sports. So many opportunities for us to hang out in person, face to face with our peers, right? But today that is completely taken away from children for various reasons. And they are left with a lot of strong emotions just to handle by themselves, and they won't know what to do with all those energy or emotions, or and I think this is a great way. I feel yoga class when they come in, some when I teach, kids just want to come and lie down, and I'm like, it's okay, let them lie down, that's what they want for, that's what they are asking for. And then they want to jump around and play, that's okay, it looks very unstructured, but that is exactly what they need. They want to laugh out loud, they want to roll on the floor, which is fine, and it is giving them an opportunity to connect in that very special way with their peers. So
Yeah.
I love that, what you said about our growing up years. It just took me back to nostalgia,
Yeah.
actually. So that's wonderful. So I want to bring the focus on teens, right? So nowadays I am kind of reading about adolescent behavior a lot. which starts from, I was surprised to know that adolescence is all the way from 12 years to 25 years. That whole range is adolescence. So there's a lot of thing happening there in terms of brain development and child development. So what is your experience working with teenagers? Do you think teens or deserve that bad rap that they always get, that they are, oh, they're wild and they are indifferent, they don't care about anything? These are the things we hear about teenagers, but I have a different experience working with teens and I think they are amazing. What is your experience, and have you worked with teens in person? Just share something.
Yes, I think that is unfortunately that's the rapport that teenagers carry, is
Yeah.
that they don't care. But like you said, my personal experience is also the opposite. I think they are
Mm-hmm.
very thoughtful, very introspective. I think at that
Okay.
age they are questioning everything. They're questioning
Mm-hmm.
their own authority. They're
Mm.
almost adults, right? So they
Yeah.
want to feel that they can decide for themselves, and they're
Yeah.
questioning every choices that they make or choices are made for them, which I think
Mm-hmm.
is fair. As an adult, I don't want someone else to decide for what I am going to be doing, right? It's the same. It's coming in from the same aspect of understanding what they want, understanding what is right for them. So I
Mm-hmm.
think they are coming from figuring it out for themselves, what they like, what they want to do, what is right. And
Mm-hmm.
especially for kids grow, with two cultures to juggle and balance. Like we moved from India, right? And our kids are born and growing up here. So they
Yeah.
have this, they have to fit in the
Mm-hmm.
school with multicultures, right? There are people from different countries or different cultural background, and at the same time, when they come back home, we expect them to value our culture, our tradition. And so for them, I think that all the things that they ask, maybe they may not know the right way to question it,
Yeah.
but they want to understand why we do a certain thing, why certain thing is done in a specific way. I think
Right.
when you give them the context and leave it and not worry
Mhm.
about whether they carry with them, it
Yeah.
I think your job is done. For us
Okay.
as parents, I think we should instill as much values as we can, give
Yeah.
them perspective, give them context, and
Mm-hmm.
that's where our job ends, or draw a line. How much of it they take in and how much of it they apply in their life,
Yeah.
it is up to them, right? Because it is their life. This again
Mm-hmm.
goes back to Sadhguru. He says, once you give birth to the child, it is not for you to control, right?
Yeah.
They have their own life. They can
Yes.
make their own choices, and
Yeah.
they are born intuitive. They know, they have the intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Allow them to use those
Draw some.
intelligence. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
give them the exposure, but
Yeah.
let them figure it out. And like, for me, yoga, I was exposed to it as a child. I didn't see the
Yeah.
value, but I came back to it because I
Exactly.
know what it is. And even when I speak to kids on the podcast, they say that I started drinking hot water in the morning because I see my parents do it, and I see my parents do, I mean, like, work out and everything. So that's why I take care of my physical health. So you
Mm-hmm.
model it and they will pick up and, maybe come back to it when they feel the need for it. Yeah. So otherwise, I think to your point, teens definitely have a bad rapport. But
Mm-hmm.
otherwise, if you get to know them, give them the space, allow
Space.
them to share, and not be authoritative on them, I think they will thrive.
Yeah. I think that again brings back to the topic where we have to know ourselves. First of all, we have to be self-aware and take that moment to pause before just judging them,
Right.
right? Or just lashing out on them, and kind of, sit with them and maybe hear their point of view, their perspective.
Exactly.
Um, and I think that will help build a healthier relationship with teens.
Yes,
Mm.
certainly. I think the first thing is for us to let go of our expectation
Yeah.
and connect with our children, and then set boundaries. I think it is because we have a certain way, or we were brought up certain way, we come with that pre mindset, and then we expect our children to be a certain way because we did certain things, and so we expect them to do a certain things as well, which I think
Mhm.
is not fair. So we should kind of start fresh with our
Mhm.
children based
Yeah,
on the current environment.
that's wonderful. So tell me a little bit about your classes. So you work with different age groups, right? What is your most popular age group? And if I walk into a Mudita Circles class, what can I expect?
Yes, I teach kids starting from 2 all the way up to 17.
Oh my
And
God,
I think,
toddlers?
yes, I think that is
That's
like,
the best,
yes,
cutest age. Yeah.
yes, and
Yeah.
it is so much so fun
Yes.
to kind of teach that age. I wouldn't say I'm going there to teach. I'm going
Yeah.
there to experience. I think
Yeah.
I go there to experience the joy, seeing
Yes.
little ones do the poses, sing along. It's an experience for me, and
Mhm.
probably they take something out of it going back as well. I get messages from the parents saying that they're still singing that song, or they're still
Yeah.
asking me to do that pose. So that's really nice. They're only 2 3 years, and when they can get hooked to something, that's nothing, that's more than anything, I would say.
That's
And then
wonderful.
all the way up to teens. And
Yeah.
when you walk into a class, I think, like you said, there is structure, but there is no
Yeah.
structure at the same time, right? Yeah,
Exactly.
it all
Right.
depends on the day, it all depends on the kids, it all depends on the mood of the kids. So
Mhm.
it's not going to be like an adult class where this is the sequence and this is what I'm going to follow. So it has the elements of an adult class, but yet it does not look like an adult class. Yeah.
Right. So I always say there will be a plan B for a plan B.
Yes,
Because,
exactly. Yeah.
it really, we can plan as much as we want, but then at the end of the day, they are kids, and we have to be flexible enough to, cater to them. But I think I have this image put somewhere in my room where I teach my classes, where there is like three circles, right? There is stillness, there is movement, and there is breath work. If you're doing little bit of all of these three things, then you're good. It is catering to, I think, both your mind and your body.
Right.
So I think it's great. So what about teens? Do you have a different kind of a plan for teens, or what is
Yes.
your
Yes, I
format?
think for every age group, I do have a certain structure, but then I
Yeah.
kind of tweak it based on the mood of the teens. But I
Okay.
think for teens, it's a little more similar to an adult framework because
Okay.
they are ready for more.
Mm-hmm.
And they're ready to consume, and they're okay following and staying with you for that long. Whereas
Okay.
younger kids, they might, not have the attention span to follow
Mhm.
you, imitate all the positions, all the postures for that long.
Sure.
So yes, for a teens, it kind of I think matches an adult class to an extent,
Mhm.
but at the same time also, I factor in their mood, how their school stresses, and based on that we tweak it here and there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wonderful. All right. Thank you so much, Shruti. I read it somewhere that, I have to say AI. So, so in the age of AI, everybody will know about everything
Right.
except themselves, right? So I think that's where all of these tools of yoga and mindfulness and meditation comes in, so you can know a little bit better about your own self. So I think you're doing amazing work, and more power to you, and wishing you all the best. Thank you so much for coming on Yogami Kids.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, and I wish you the best as well with this initiative and many more that are, coming up. So good luck to you, and thank you so much for this opportunity, and not just this for this conversation, because uh, having to share the same thought process with another
Ah,
person, with another teacher, is it's nice to know that you're not the only one facing the same challenges.
Absolutely.
Yeah, whether it's parents, whether it's kids, I think I find comfort in it that it
Mhm.
is not only my problem to deal with. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Community is everything. And, it's good to know that you're not alone in this
Yes.
journey. So it's amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Bye bye.
Bye.